Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamerdad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we're going to show you the optional fight, which is ARPX-Sophie. And in order to unlock this fight, first of all, you have to have defeated the other 4 EPS fights. I do have them on my channel, so just you search up EPS and you can find those 4 optional boss fights. They are all pretty challenging, and each subsequent win not only gives you a gold badge and some chrono stones, they do unlock additional features to make your 5-star Curio stronger. In this case, if you do defeat Sophie, you do get a bonus, which I can show you at the end, that helps boost Curio's powers. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So, not only do you have to have beaten the 4 EPS fights, keep in mind that you also have to have battled Sophie at least one time before, and I will put a link below in the video description as to the fight. There is a spoiler alert here. Sophie was actually previously known as the Nameless Girl. And so you would have to have done 1,000 runs in another dungeons using those the red or green keys in order to unlock the fights. And I believe at 200 runs, 400 runs, 600 runs, 800 runs, and finally the fight is unlocked at 1,000, you get additional dialogue that you can see from the Nameless Girl if you're earlier in the game. Now, most of us, of course, who are veterans will have done at least 1,000 runs, and of course, I do always encourage everyone to run all their red and green keys, and so most likely you have done that fight. However, if you're relatively new to the game and you haven't seen that, then like I said, definitely check out the video that I'll link in the description. So, like all of you, I was very curious to see how they would link Sophie and the ARPX kind of optimized weapons. And of course, same thing as the last time with Patel, Curio unlocks the control module, bringing back some horrible memories and also unlocking her true potential as a devastated anti-personnel weapon in order to end Aldo and his team. Alright, so here we go. So this fight is also quite challenging, and just like the previous Nameless Girl fight, it's all about survival, and this time you do have to bring some DPS, although not as nearly as high as some others. There is still a strict DPS check. So I'm bringing in Miglin's team plus Pizzica, and I have 2 Grasta holders in the back. Note that I actually only swung with Sword Swing with D3, and the reason for that is I don't want a full AF bar. I want near full, but I don't want a full AF bar. And if I have a full AF bar, then the AF finisher will actually kill Sophie. And if you kill Sophie, she will revive. However, she gets a lot tougher every time you either kill her or kill the crystals, or you don't break those shields in time. You can see the ones with the 2 counters or less. It'll build a bad stack on her. I call it good and bad stacks. I believe the one on the left is a bad one, the one on the right is a good one, essentially. And you want to get to 10 good stacks before you get to 10 bad stacks. And most likely, if you had gotten to 10 bad stacks, you would have gotten hurt anyways, because at more stacks, Sophie will do more and more damage. Okay, so the first 2 turns were really just mitigation. Obviously, we had Oratorio, we have Elemental Barrier, High Magic Down, and so on and so forth. And now we're just going to kill off the shields for the crystals. Now keep in mind that one crystal is weak to certain elements, and the other one is also weak to certain other elements, otherwise nulling other elements. And so in this case, I'm bringing obviously fire for one side and earth for the other side. There is a more comprehensive description and list of the requirements. I'll link that also in the video description below. I believe there was actually a thread on the subreddit for Another Eden that describes exactly the moveset of this boss. So one thing to know, Sophie essentially doesn't really attack you. However, at the end of turn has that kind of end of turn non-elemental magic AoE, and so you do want to help protections against that either through a int down type shields, or of course 50% barrier from Oratorio. Otherwise, it goes through a strict 3-turn rotation that repeats over and over again. First turn, it essentially does a void, which is a 3 times single target hit, random non-elemental, and then it starts doing that Dio Logos, which is essentially putting up that 2-turn shield. Absolution is the turn 2, which is the AoE kind of non-elemental meteor attack, and then it does a clear, which basically clears all buffs and debuffs on itself. Note that I believe it also clears status, which is like pain, poison, and so on and so forth. And then the third turn, it'll do some other things, and you'll see a lot of status type attacks on the third turn. So the whole point is to have a strict rotation where you can build up a bar and essentially use a bar every 3 turns to not only stack back up your buffs and debuffs to end the shields before it counts down to 0. So you actually only have 2 and 1. Once 1 hits, if you don't kill it at 1, if it hits 0, you have failed the mission. You know, mission failed, we'll get it next time. And then it'll stack 1 stack. And again, the end of turn time eraser from Sophie is continual, and as if you have more bad stacks, that damage gets higher and higher. There is also a turn in between these 3 turn rotations where it'll also heal everybody. That occurs at 3 good stacks, 6 good stacks, and 9 good stacks. You see that warm feeling means you have done it properly that one time. Okay, so anyways, back to the action. Void is, again, we can see the rotation is back. Again, time eraser is continuous, and so as long as you get into the rotation, you should be okay. I wouldn't consider the damage major problem as long as you have at least 1 type shield 50% and a barrier of some sort. However, the main thing is the RNG. There's a lot of status effects, which is why I actually used Pisaka, which I know she's very, very good. I just tried not to use her because she's just so good at the game, right? In this case, I really needed her end of turn to help with healing, MP recovery, as well as status removal, because the enemies can put things like darkness, confusion, and lots of other things just screw you up, basically. The other thing you want to note that they are two different I guess crystals. You actually only want to kill 1 bar at a time and leave the second bar kind of up to a sliver so that you can kill it the next turn. Because if you kill both of them in 1 turn, you only get 1 good stack on her. So note that we got from 5 to 6. And remember when I said that each 3 stacks, it does that, which heals everything. Note that it also refreshes that shield on the enemy, which it really honestly can't do anything about that. It's not like you're going to burst it down, because if you do, I guess you could have prevented it from having any shields, but I didn't really go into this having exact strategy. I just really knew that I had to kind of essentially build up a bar, try to shoot down 1 shield at a time, and kind of survive. And really, if the shield goes down to 0, it's not the end of the world. It gives 1 bad stack to Sophia, and you see the cold control logic module has increased. So instead of 1 bad stack, it only has 2, but we're still winning the game. We have 6 good stacks, 2 bad stacks. She also does have a 3-hit barrier, so if you are using DPS to end it during the AF or outside of AF, you can use AoEs, keeping in mind she can only take 3 hits from AoEs before damage starts getting through. And like I said, you don't want to be killing her because she starts stacking those bad stacks, which will eventually make life very, very difficult for you. So single target is definitely highly recommended in this case. Also, that if you give pain, and I do use pain but through blood cruelty, the pain status itself can kill her, although you notice that it does go away because they have that guiding light, which removes status every few turns as well. So you can stick it where you do the AF right before they do that guiding light. It'll remove the stack. It'll have done 1 turn of damage, but not enough to kill it. So note that. Remember, I put blood cruelty, which gave Sophie pain. This turn it hurt her, which is not very good. Blood cruelty does give a 70% power boost to Deidre for 3 turns. So you don't have to do it again. Now, there is some RNG. On the turns that Oratorio is not active, if your DPS gets affected by darkness or stun or anything like that, you do have some RNG, especially if you're waiting to leave a sliver of shield on the crystals and bring it down the very next turn outside AF. In this case, note that I was very, very fortunate that it went through and was able to do it. So if you can just leave a small sliver, that would be the best, so that as long as you don't get hit by too much RNG, you'll be able to end the fight in a reasonable manner. And again, the fact that you get up to 10 stacks of bad stacks, you don't really have to worry too much about it. In this case, Pride of Miglin's is really the MVP through ASMU. Not only that, but we do start her off at very low MP because remember, her damage is not only based on the number of buffs on her, which is up to 8, that can also be given through buffs and turns, shared Grasta, and so on and so forth. She also increases her damage if you have low MP, and so we can pretty much ride the line with almost no MP and having Orotoro regenerate MP every turn for us. Remember, Orotoro gives us 50 MP every turn, and so that keeps her nice and low at maximum DPS potential. And casting Pride of Miglin's, you can refresh it every 3 turns or within the EF if you have time left over, because you really have to watch during the EF, because you want to burst down, if you can help it, burst down just the one shield and leave a little bit for the second shield to be killed outside AF if possible. So you have to play around with your DPS requirements and see what you need in order to burst down that remainder shield outside AF. Now, once you get to 10 stacks, the fight ends at the end of that turn. So as long as you survive that turn, and note that as the fight goes on, she does a little bit less damage as you get more and more calm. Alright, so that's it. So let me know in the comments below if you've already beaten this fight, and if so, what teams you used. I decided to go with this team, although I know that there are other low turn strategies. There are some free-to-play clears. I'm sure there are other team comps you can definitely copy if this is not the team you do have. I just want to play around with Miglis, and let's be honest, I haven't used D3 for a very long time, so it's very, very fun to try something different. And this fight took me about 2 hours of trial and error to kind of figure out on my own. Alright, so there is the loadout right here. Note that Aldo and Altina both have 4 stacks, 4 Grasta slots, and that's what's really, really important. Also, one thing to note is that there is something called Luring Shadow, which is kind of the 3 move set of the crystals, and they do apply power and int debuffs on your team, and so I highly recommend, if you can or you have enough slots, carry some proficiency debuff Grasta, which is shareable at 15% each, and if you have enough stacks or enough slots, you can have either 6 or 7 of those to prevent 90 or 100% of those debuffs if possible. That really does help the team. One other thing is that when you do get hit over time, there are some red orbs. You cannot dispel those. They have permanent HP and I think it's speed reduction on your team, which makes it harder as the fight drags on as well. Now, one last thing to note before I stop talking. Go back to IDA Block L, where you do get to talk to Caviar, and Sophie gets to meet her creators, and it kind of ties up some last minute storyline that you might be looking for. Alright, so like most storyline videos, I'm going to stop talking now and let you watch the rest of the video in peace. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.